Wanting to incorporate more digital tools into your closing process, but not sure where to start? ProperSign is the remote online notarization platform with solutions for e-signing, e-notarization, identity verification, and more. So whether you need to perform a RON or RIN or anything in between, ProperSign has been called surprisingly simple to use by some of the title industry's pickiest professionals. For a limited time, you can get a 30-day trial of the tool completely free. To get this offer, visit propersign.com/safe-secure-closing. That's propersign.com/safe-secure-closing. Now, back to Title Talks.
Most of us are familiar with personal identity theft. But if you own a business or hold title to a property through a limited liability company, you need to know about the threat of business identity theft as well. In most states, it's shockingly easy for criminals to change the address and managing partners listed under an LLC to take out a loan. Furthermore, title agents and real estate attorneys may unwittingly be helping these criminals steal businesses and properties out from under their rightful owners. I'm Amanda Farrell, and you're listening to Title Talks.
There's so many victims out there that the police can't even help them because they don't have the resources and the manpower to deal with this problem, you know?
Andy Pham is a successful real estate developer and entrepreneur who created Company Alarm, a software meant to help businesses and real estate professionals identify when business identity theft has taken place. It was an idea he got after receiving a notice of foreclosure on his $5 million property. Crooks had usurped the ownership of his LLC and used it to take out loans with the property as collateral. Our conversation starts with Andy telling us about his background and how Company Alarm came to be.
My name is Andy Pham. I came to America in 1979. I came here alone in 1979. After the fall of Vietnam in 1975, my family, my mom and my two sisters and my dad, we were in the South Vietnam and the South Vietnamese Army. And my dad decided not to leave when the U.S. troops pulled out in 1975. He didn't want to go to the U.S. Embassy and get on the helicopter because he didn't want to abandon his country. So he decided to stay. It was a big mistake for us to stay because after the fall of Vietnam in 1975, the communists, which is the North, they went down, they won, they conquered, they occupied South Vietnam. And within 24 hours, they went around all the neighborhood and knocked on every single door, say you have to leave your weapons outside your gate, including your military uniforms and your guns. And so that's what we did. We obeyed the law because the government the North is in control now. The North is communism. After that, which is 1975, my dad, our family, we had a lot of problems and struggles and starvation because once the communists took over South Vietnam, there was nothing left. You know, they confiscate land that you own. They confiscate the guns, so you can't defend yourself. So I was 8 years old when I saw this, happening. And in 1975 also, they took my dad away at 2 o'clock in the morning. They knocked on the door because he was in the South Vietnamese Army. So they took him away at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we never see him for the next 6 years. So we went through a period of starvation because everything belongs to the communists. They confiscate land, and when they confiscate your land, your private property, people have no incentive to work. They just why would you work and the other guy is sitting? So when no one wants to work, you have no money. When you have no money, no one wants to farm also, so there's no food. So and also we were in the war with Cambodia, and in 1979, my mom decided there's nothing left for us here, and she sold everything that she owned that important to her, and she put me on a little boat with 15, 20 other kids. And from then on, I was on this fishing boat, drifting out to sea, hoping that someone would rescue us. So after 5 days at sea, we ran out of food and water. And we somehow discovered there's an oil offshore rig out in the middle of the ocean, and they rescue us. And I was put on the little islands off of Malaysia called Pulau Tangga. Then my life begins there, as a little boy with 5 other kids, and we lived in this little hut for 2.5 years until my grandmother left for America when the American troops pulled out in 1975. And that's how my life started, by being alone on this little island with 5 other boys. And we learned how to fish for food, how to build a home. And after 2 years going to all the paperwork, I was sponsored by my grandmother who left Vietnam in 1975. Then I came to America as a young boy, 10 years old,
Of course, I'm sure those early years really put an impression on you in terms of your current work ethic. And when you made that move over to America, you started a company, a real estate development company, correct?
Yes. So my grandma always pushed me. 3 things you have to be in order you have to be successful is you have to assimilate in America. You have to learn the language, how to speak English also, and education is your way out to move up the ladder. And hard work. That's my grandmother taught me that. With that teaching, I was able to go to college at University of California, Irvine in Orange County. And when I went to college, I started studying for my real estate test. Then I got my real estate broker license in California when I was 19 years old. Then I went on and got my insurance license, my Series 7 auto securities license. Then I started working for a company out in Atlas in Pennsylvania. They drill oil and gas. We would raise money to drill natural gas. We sell the gas to General Motors. We sell the gas to all the surrounding homes. So I did that for 5 years before I got into real estate. I got into real estate back in 2002. That's when I started working for a person named Robert Kubik. He was a big real estate developer in Alaska. And when I worked for him, I learned everything about real estate development. Then he taught me how to build the first 5 homes in Bloomington, California. That's how I got involved in real estate, by learning from other people, and other people were kind enough to teach me the rope and show me how to build homes and shopping center, assisted living facility, industrial buildings. So from then on, I was able to raise my own funds and start my own projects with my own investors.
And so it sounds like things were going really great for you in terms of the real estate business. What then caused you to start a company like Company Alarm? What was the reason for that?
Great question, Amanda. Company Alarm was started because I am what you call a serial entrepreneur. I have successfully started over 20 companies in the last 25 years. Different companies I'm involved in biotech company. Most of my projects currently real estate projects. I'm building a self-storage facility in Mesa, Arizona. So I was a victim of business identity theft. A group of investors of mine that have been with me for 25 years, in 2005, we bought a piece of land. We paid cash in Nevada right next to Red Rock Canyon. And the goal was to get it approved for 30 townhomes, beautiful townhomes, back into Red Rock Canyon. And this gated community next to the townhomes. We have an equestrian center where people can bring their horses and ride into Red Rock Canyon. So those townhomes is 2,400 square feet, 3-story high, with a view to the Strip and a view to the Red Rock Mountain behind you, and with all the amenities, including the pool. So we paid $5 million cash. I got the city to approve it. It took me a year and a half to get all the property entitled. Then in 2008, the market crashed. I couldn't get construction loan for the project. I was putting up the land as collateral for $5 million cash, plus put in another $500,000 cash, then pull a construction loan for $15 million. Then I couldn't, because at that time the banks were not lending. So the project, we stayed dormant for since 2005 up to 2017. So that's 12 years I own that project with my investor, free and clear. There's no debt on the property. I pay the property taxes every single year. And in 2017, I moved from Las Vegas because I lived in Las Vegas for 15 years after I moved from California, Amanda, and my wife's family from Idaho. So we decided to move up to Idaho to take care of her mom. And while I was sitting at my desk in Idaho, I received a foreclosure notice on my property. And my heart just sank when I received the foreclosure notice. You know, your life just like stopped that moment because you're like, okay, I own this property for the last 12 years, been paying the property taxes every single year. How did I get a foreclosure notice? So after receiving the foreclosure notice, I called my lawyer right away, and he said, Andy, someone has taken out 2 private hard money loans on your property. Then after that, it's been a nightmare for the last 3 years, you know, trying to go to court to do a quiet title action to get my property back, Amanda, has been the most difficult 3 years of my entire life.
The details, as they've kind of unfolded, as you've learned more about how this happened, I was reading in the one article, you mentioned that the people who ended up being the ones that took out these loans against your property, you had been speaking to people about this vacant lot and your plans with it, and that's how they found out about it being there. But then what was it that they did in order to access those loans and get those loans taken out against your property?
Oh, so what they did is they, on December 31st, 2015, which is New Year's Eve, Amanda, they went on to Nevada Secretary of State's website called Silver Flume. The crooks, they all got together at the hotel on the Strip. I think there's 3 of them. So they removed me as the managing member of my LLC. You know, when you remove somebody as a managing member, that person, then they replaced my name with a person named James Calhorn. And from then on, I did not know that my name was removed because on New Year's Eve, no one go on the Secretary of State website and check, see who has removed you as a managing member. When we form an LLC, you know, we don't go on the Secretary of State website and check the status of our LLC. We only do that once a year, you know, because you have your anniversary date. So let's say you form an LLC today, your anniversary date is going to be next year. You have to renew that before that anniversary date. So for most businessmen like me, when they form an LLC, or their office manager helps them form an LLC, after that, you put a piece of land in an LLC or a business in an LLC. You don't think about it. You know, you think you've been protected by the state, and it's actually what I discovered is that's not the truth. You're public. Once you form an LLC with the Secretary of State, everything becomes public record. People can search you and find who you are, you know. So there's no safety. There's no safeguard your business identity with the Secretary of State's portal. That's the reason why I started Company Alarm, because what I want to do is I wish I could help people out there that this happens every single day, because for 2 reasons, Amanda. What you have is, in the old days, let's say you want to hijack a company, you have to walk into the Secretary of State's office and fill out a paperwork, a form. Then you have to pay that fee to update the manager or the physical address of the company. Nowadays, with our internet age, anyone can sit in front of a computer, and in 30 seconds, they can just use a debit card or go to Walgreens and buy a credit card that you can just put in $50, and you can hijack a company. And the Secretary of State, they don't care, you know. That's how they make additional money, because people are out there doing this, and they don't have the authority or the legal authority to prosecute people. And it's a gaping hole that no one talks about it. And so many businesses out there, when you start a business, you want to form an LLC to insulate yourself from personal liability, right? And there's a lot of businesses being born every single year, especially in Nevada. There's 56,000 new businesses either formed under an LLC, S Corp, or C Corp every single year, and nobody knows about this problem. Business identity theft is the most underreported problem in the U.S. right now,
Right. And it was really easy for them to make those changes and file them online with the Secretary of State. And when that was brought to your attention, what sort of response from the Secretary of State did you get in terms of stopping this type of fraud, and what kind of actions are they taking proactively to combat that?
When my office manager discovered that my name has been removed, the first thing she did is she filed a fraud complaint with the Secretary of State. You can go in and file for a complaint because she said, Andy, someone has removed you as a managing member of your own LLC for the last 12 years, and his person name is James Calhoun. And I say, I don't know this James Calhoun character. Can you just send a cease and desist letter to his medical practice and also file a fraud complaint with Secretary of State? Then we just go back and remove him and put myself back amend the list and put Andy back as the managing member. And then we just go on our merry way. And in 4 months later, when I received a foreclosure notice, everything came back to me. Now I see, connecting all the dots, Now I see what they have done to me is when we receive a notice that someone has removed me as a managing member, we get the state sent out a very generic email say the list has been amended, and we have over 50 companies registered in Nevada. We get those notices every day, and sometimes some of them go into a spam folder, and we didn't check. We didn't know, Amanda, that the LLC has been hijacked by this character, James Calhoun. We didn't know that this could happen. And anyone can do it. You just have to make up a new ID address, which you make up a new email address, which you can go on Google and get a new email account. From that, all you have to do is just go on the Secretary of State website called Silver Flume and hijack a company. I can hijack a MGM casino right now and remove Jim Murrin as the CEO and put Andy Pham in 5 minutes. I can do it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I know with in your case, the Nevada Secretary of State said that they weren't responsible for any neglect or liability. And they said that it was a result of, a failure of due diligence on the part of the lenders and the buyers. Do you think that that's a fair statement to make? Do you think that this is an issue where, the people dealing with the real estate transactions should be aware of this, or is there something more that the Secretary of State should be doing?
The Secretary of State of Nevada, yes, they said we have no legal authority to verify the accuracy of the information, and we don't care. It's up to the buyer and the seller, up to the escrow agent to verify the information online. We're just an entity within the government that takes the application. We're not going to call anybody to verify that is this true information. And the problem is there's loopholes in the system. Going to the last 3 years, going to the legal process, I discovered that the crooks, they all go to the same school because they all go to the same prison, and they teach them how to do this, So all you have to do, Amanda, is that when I filed a fraud complaint, you know what these people did? We named him when we filed a fraud complaint, right? So what they did is they wrote an email to the Secretary of State, said I met them at the Suncoast Hotel. Then when they wrote that email, the Secretary of State dismissed my fraud complaint. They said, okay, it's between the parties. We don't want anything to do with it. We just dismissed the complaint. I found out this to the Request for Information Act, how when you go to deposition, you subpoena records, and I found out that's how they got around the system by beating the fraud complaint that I filed. It's like you and I, Amanda, let's say you hijack my company. All you have to do is file a fraud complaint. You write a short email to the Secretary of State. Yeah, I met Andy in Florida at the Marriott, and they're just going to dismiss that fraud complaint. and they're not going to do anything about it.
Wow. So it definitely seems like business owners can't rely on the Nevada Secretary of State. And I know that this is an issue in other states as well. I actually wrote about the problem not too long ago because the American Land Title Association put out an alert, to title agents regarding this particular problem in business identity theft, and how that's being used as a way to either sell land that essentially doesn't belong to you, or to, like in your case, take out loans against it. So in terms of, what title agents do and real estate attorneys, what is it that you think that they can be doing to sort of maybe step in and fill that void where the Secretary of State is not performing? And what are some things that they can do to make sure business owners like you are protected? What are those red flags related to real estate deals involving business identity theft?
A good question. I'm going to answer in 3 steps. Number one is, especially escrow agents or real estate lawyers, what they need to do is when you do a closing, right, the first thing you have to do is, with Company Alarm, with our software, we can tell you the history of the owners of the property, of the LLC. Let's say I'm looking online to Company Alarm back end. You can see, okay, Andy Pham been a managing member for the last 12 years. And suddenly there's a person just came on, James Calhoun. Why is he taking out loans on the property when Andy Pham been the managing member? And why is the business address changed? So there's flags, there's patterns that the crooks use, They change your business address to their address, to a new address that doesn't exist. Then they also remove you as a managing member. So those will cause the red flags. So our system will tell you on the home screen, it tells you before and after. It gives you the history of the managing member, the history of the address, the history of the phone number. On the other side of the screen, you're going to see, okay, in the last 3 months, this company has been changed from Andy Pham to James Calhoun, and the physical business address has been changed from Las Vegas to Colorado Springs. So that would raise a red flag. The first thing I would do is pick up the phone and call Andy Pham, because I can be tracked. You can just Google my name. You can see my cell phone number and call Andy and say, hey, Andy, did you give away the right to your property, Caballos de Oro? I would excuse me. I own that property. I still own that property. So there's so many ways that our system will help Company Alarm will show people that, look, this company has the same managing member for 12 years, and why is this person in the last 90 days taking out a loan against a property that the previous owner hasn't taken out the loan? He's paid cash on it. There's $5 million in equity on this property, and it will raise a red flag in my mind also, There's other patterns that the crook use is they would hijack a company that been in the dormant status for 5 to 6 to 7 years, Amanda. Then what they do is they revive that company and bring it back into active status. And what they do? They go out and order cell phones, copier, send it to an address that is not even, exists, like an empty building. So what they use is they use that previous company credit to buy stolen goods.
So even businesses that have been deactivated are at risk of this happening to them as well. So if you have been at some point in your life a business owner, you could still be affected by this kind of fraud?
Absolutely, because, for example, I have so many businesses. I have so many land projects, my self-storage project. I built credit to it for the last 10 years. How your business, you pay your utility bills on time, you build credit on it, you pay your you get credit, you get business credit. So I can go out and get a business line of credit with a bank, and all the crook has to do is go to the IRS.gov website and apply for a new EIN number, Amanda, in your name. in your business name, and from that EIN number, they can file a tax return because that's all you need, an EIN number, file a tax return with the federal government. From that, they use a fake operating agreement. Then they can go to a lender and get credit to buy a copier for $50,000 and ship it to an unknown address. The police won't do anything because it's difficult for them. It's not like a guy you see robbing a bank. You see him on camera. He walk away with $2,500. Business identity theft is a huge problem because the loss is in at least $100,000 minimum. And when I went to the police and camped out in front of the police, they say, Andy, this is too difficult for us because we have to go and track the IP address where those guys, when they change your name, and everything now, the crooks know they just need to use a VPN to cover their tracks, right? And so from my experience, white-collar crime, you can get away with it if you want to commit white-collar crime. My mentality is I don't wake up and see how can I steal something from somebody. I wake up every single day thinking about how I can build a project to provide jobs for people around me, I don't think about, okay, what am I going to take from people today? There's people out there that think like that every single day,
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And I know that this issue of cybercrime, it definitely is becoming a bigger issue for law enforcement, local municipalities, and states to figure out how to deal with. I mentioned to you, deed fraud is also a really big issue because just like people can steal your business, they can also pretty easily steal your home as well if you're not paying attention to people filing deeds. Transferring title over from the current owner to someone new. And all they have to do is go and file that with the county clerk. And in the same way with the Secretary of State, there's no process at that level to verify those records that are being filed with them. They just file it. They just record it in the public record. That's it. So it definitely seems like to me there needs to be more state and federal legislation and legislators looking at this and creating laws to prevent these types of scams and require better safeguards. But is there anything that you feel like specifically should be done, at the state legislator level to sort of curb these issues? Or, I guess for you as an entrepreneur, clearly you're interested in solving these problems yourself, but do you see anything that needs to be done at the state level at all?
Yeah, for the last 10 years, the National Cybersecurity Society have asked the state that once a year, on the Secretary of State, they have a conference they go to, and on our board is the number one white-collar crime criminal investigator. His name is Ralph Gagliardi. He's the leading nation's law enforcement for business identity theft, and he would go and attend those meetings every single year and ask the Secretary of State to put in safeguards. And there's a white paper out there 10 years ago listing the solutions that the state could adopt. And the state, the government, how government, it's difficult for the state to make changes because they have to go to the legislator, ask for funding to make changes to the website, to make changes, to fix all the loopholes in their portals. And the problem is with the Secretary of State, is the placement holder, to run the election each year for every 2 years for the state. They don't care because if you're trying to fix the system, if something goes wrong, they get all the blame. If something goes right, they get no credit for it. So this is a huge problem. It's going to be a huge issue in the next 10 years, and I don't think the state will fix it because the government moves very slow. And to get funding with the legislator, and the legislator in Nevada only meet every 2 years, and you have to put that request in a bill, appropriation bill for funding, and it's not going to happen till probably like when I'm 70 years old, because this issue it's already been debated for the last 10 years and nobody has done anything. Colorado did. Colorado put in a PIN system, like you have to answer your PIN, you set up an account Amanda, you get a PIN, so your PIN could be 6567, and that's your PIN, and no one can get in your LLC and make changes without your PIN. So Ralph told me, Andy, only less than 20% of the business owners in Colorado sign up for it. Because people, they think it won't happen to them. Yeah, only 20%, less than 20% use the PIN system because people, they don't know about business identity theft. They know about personal identity theft when someone, steal their Social Security number, then they go out and open up, credit cards in your name and go buy, goods. Then you have to call the credit card company, TransUnion, Equifax, and file 4 complaints with the police. And people know about personal identity theft, but they don't know about business identity theft because this is the most underreported theft in America, I think.
Right. Yeah, I was reading about Colorado's program, and it just seemed like such a simple but powerful solution to have a PIN number or password associated with that business that is required to make any changes. And I'm actually very surprised to hear that only 20% of those businesses are taking advantage of that kind of program. It's such a simple way to add that extra layer of protection. It's shocking to me that more aren't doing it.
The police, the detectives, they get a list of changes from the state once a month, and they don't have enough manpower to call every single one on that list because the state gives them the list of all the changes that have been made to companies. They went from a dormant status into an active status, physical address been changed. He only have enough time to go to maybe 10% of all the names on that list. So there's so many victims out there that the police can't even help them because they don't have the resources and the manpower to deal with this problem,
So what are some suggestions you have for people who have a business and hold title to a property through an LLC to protect themselves? Whether it's using company alarm or some other, manual or best practices that they can put into place to protect themselves.
Okay, great question. So how can company alarm help protect your business or your LLC? The first thing you have to do is be vigilant about the information, If you have time, you just check on it at least once a month and see if changes have been made to your LLC, but most people don't. Number 2 is join company alarm, subscribe to our service. What they get is they get an instant, a software will detect a change to your LLC, a name, a physical address, anything that's been made to your LLC, a precise message alert will be pushed to your cell phone so you can act immediately to prevent the legal problem that I'm going through for the last 3 years, trying to get my property back, spending over $400,000 in legal fees. So when you get an immediate text alert on your cell phone, you can look at it and say, oh, my God, who is this, James Calhoun? I don't know this person. Why is he a manager of my company that I've been a manager for the last 12 years, So you can take action immediately because time is on your side when you can get notice right away. You can fix the issues instead of waiting 11 months later. I didn't know until 11 months later. Too late by that time. The damage has been done, because now you have to hire lawyers and spend money to get back something that you rightfully own. It's a nightmare because they'll just bankrupt you,
We, at PropLogix, we work with a lot of title agents and real estate attorneys. And what sort of value would you say that this adds to the work they do is in terms of, educating them about the issue? And are there any other tips that you would give to them in terms of the work they do and the people that they help and maybe even their own company? Is this, a potential problem for them as well?
Yeah, with our software, we can help title agents or real estate attorneys. We have different level of threat, green, blue, and red. Then we can assign a different alert. So red alert is like if someone just changed your physical address in the last 2 weeks or in the last 10 days, your business address. Number two is if someone just removed the managing member. So it gives them the tools to verify the information from the previous owner, double check on the address before they issued the title policy, So that's what our software is great about, is helping people with tools and assign different alert that they can follow up and say, okay, red alert, Andy been a managing member for 12 years. Suddenly, the guy's only been a managing for 2 weeks. He's taking out a loan on a $1.7 million. The lender is getting title policy. Now, the lender, the underwriter, is not doing her due diligence because she's just going on the Secretary of State website and look and say, okay, the new person is James Calhoun. It looks legit. The operating agreement looks fine. So we'll issue a title policy. Now going to hold this legal process, the insurance company know that they're going to lose. They're on the hook for the $1.7 million, Amanda, because they didn't check. They just went on the Secretary of State's website and saw James Calhoun as a managing member and issued a title policy without calling me. And all the crooks they did is they just make a fake operating agreement, and everything is forgery. And they said I resigned from my own LLC. They just signed my name without me knowing. And all they had to do is pick up the phone and just call me and say, Andy, I saw you've been a manager for 12 years. Did you give up the right to your property? This all can be resolved. If they have company alarm, we can show them that. We can show them that, okay, here's the history before and after, and they can verify the information.
Is that a standard practice usually to call and check up, or is that something that also is perhaps lacking in terms of the due diligence side of the real estate transaction?
Yes, because I didn't know how the process worked until I've been in the last 3 years, been into like 50 depositions, and we have the whole. I've seen like 100 boxes of paper of like 80 depositions that they have to interview every single person and depose everybody. And I didn't know that the title officer doesn't call the previous owner when they issue a title policy to make sure that that person has sold or give the right to that property to somebody else, or the manager has to resign and give that when you send in your resignation letter, that and verify the operating agreement, because you can just make up a fake operating agreement and say I'm the sole manager for Caballos de Oro. And I didn't know that they don't even call and verify. It's just take a phone call to track down the previous manager, and they don't even do it,
Well, yeah, I didn't realize that there wasn't that much, research done into it, and I feel like that should definitely be a red flag for anybody who's working on a transaction where, in your case, you said that they changed managing partners, took you off, and within how many days or weeks was it that they were taking loans out against the property?
Oh, they were smart. So what they did is after they removed me as a managing member, within 30 days, they went to a private lender. So they went to him and they said, I'm the new managing member. Here's the articles of incorporations. Here's the managing member. They have a fake operating agreement. Then they fill out a loan application, and they told the private lender that the land is worth, $5 million, was purchased back in 2005, and we just want to borrow $1.2 million. So the lender agreed, because the private lender loan, the first loan was $1.2 million at 12% interest rate plus 3 points. So that's 15% right there. Mm-hmm. Then within the next 48 hours, they Google Craigslist private lender. So they found another private lender out in Vegas. They went to him and say, look, I have this piece of land. I need to borrow $550. You could be in the first position. No problem. The guy said, okay, I'm in first. The land's probably worth $5 million. There's no, when you're in first, you don't care. So there's plenty of equity there. I'm covered. So throughout this, when I went through this whole legal process, I discovered that the first and the lender, the first and the second, both thought they're in first. The second thought he's in first. The first thought he's in first. So when they pulled the prelim, when they pulled the prelim with the county, they didn't see that the first has been recorded. So the second guy, he thought he was in first. So they time it right, Amanda. They know that the recording wouldn't showed up within 48 hours, or that's how they operate, because they say, if I can go and get both loans within 48 hours, the title officer wouldn't cash that because when you pull a prelim before the closing, you didn't see like, oh my God, this land, there's no debt on it. The recording hasn't appeared on the county recorder's office website, So that's how they were able to pull it off, the crooks.
So from like a lender perspective, a private lender even, it seems like it would behoove them to look a little closer into these deals for their own sake as well, because if obviously crooks don't care about anyone who might be swindled by them. So it sounds like there's personal interest on their behalf too, to do a little bit more due diligence on their part in confirming the managing partners, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The private lenders subscribe could get your report, and look at all the liens on the property and see what has appeared on your property, because it'd be great, because information is the key, especially when you centralize all your information in one place and you get a comprehensive report like what your company does. I think it's fantastic that you're able to provide that for people, business people like myself, especially lenders, real estate developer, buyers, home buyers. You get that accessible right in front of you. You can see it in real time, And that's what I love about your company, is that's what you're able to provide. We don't have to go and look. You have a survey. Like I own a truck stop, and when I bought it, I'm building a truck wash there right now, and it's a rectangular piece, but now I discovered that the property line is zigzag, so I have issue regarding parking on my property, because my neighbor owns that, because we thought it was a straight line. Never assume anything, always check. That's what I tell people.
Definitely, due diligence is key for sure, and that is what we are all about.
Absolutely, and also like sometimes when I bought another example, I own 2 industrial buildings out in Taft, California, and we bought it with cash, free and clear. And next thing you know, I got a notice of default. Because the parents that used to own that building passed away, and the kids thought that there's an outstanding loan on the property because somehow the reconveying was never recorded on there. So we have to hire a lawyer. It costs another $10,000 to show that the reconveyance was never recorded right on the property, but the loan was paid off. So that's one thing I like about what you guys do. Also, is like provide data for people like myself when I buy something to check on it. To check, make sure everything is done correctly. Are the liens been removed? Are the utility easements and everything that needs to be. We need to know before we close on a transaction, so it doesn't come back and hurt us in the future. What happened to me the last 3 years has been a nightmare. I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. So I don't want other business owners to go to what I have gone through. That's the reason why I built Company Alarm. And I just want people to know right now, cyber identity theft is on the rise. Just be vigilant and get all the information. Subscribe to, get on our website, www.companyalarm.com. We have great articles on business identity theft that they can do, things that they can do to prevent this, because America is the best place to live, It's a land of opportunity. All you have to do is just work hard, play by the rules, and you're going to make it. Because as an immigrant, I came here with clothes on my back, and my goal is to build businesses, to hire more people, and to give back to the community, which I love. That's what my mission is to build more businesses and hire people and pay great wages and take care of the people that work for me and their family and their kids. That's my philosophy is help people along the way on this journey, because I was very blessed to have this life here in America, and I'm very, very lucky.
That's great. Yeah, I do appreciate your spirit and what you said about playing by the rules, and how I think that is important if we are in our society, if we do want to flourish as a group. It's important that you're out there helping, making sure that people aren't being taken advantage of, but those people who aren't playing by the rules, and that's really important. And I'm glad to see people like you creating solutions to fight fraud like this, and to make sure everyone gets to pursue their American dream like you have. I think that's a really powerful and great story, and I really appreciate you taking time to talk about it with me and to share your experiences.
Thank you, Amanda. Anytime. Yeah, I love to be a part of whatever you need. I love to help you. And for me, I'd rather work with somebody than do it alone, and we can help each other and educate the public and educate business owner. I think we can make a huge difference for both of us, because my purpose is to provide a tool for people to protect themselves, and also to educate the public about business and identity theft. It's on the rise,
For sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that today. I appreciate it.
And it was my pleasure. Thank you for the privilege of your time.
Title Talks is produced by PropLogix and myself. Original music is by Cole Sando. If you have an idea for an episode, email us at title.talks@proplogix.com. That's PROPLOGIX.com. Until next time, happy closings.